I'm mostly memer, but trying to get into the gaming, and I figured I'd talk to one of the best people out there,
Yeah, yeah.
MarcTheCyborg.
Well, and then yeah, and I dressed you down by for playing on easy modes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, mostly because I think that if you really want to get into gaming, it is like generally you got to move past the I immediately put it to easy mode. Easy mode should be the thing that you put a game on if you just can't deal with it on its standard difficulty. Like if it's really giving you problems, but you want to get through the game anyways, then I would say yeah, drop it down to easy mode in that event. But I would just recommend not starting on easy mode because starting on easy mode kind of it primes you to be thinking, oh, okay, especially at the beginning of this game, I'm essentially invincible, everything's dying in one hit. Yeah, I got this. I know how to play this game. But it's like, no. You're breezing through the part that's supposed to teach you how to play this game. And then when you get to the part that's hard, you don't understand why you don't know how to play. It's like, yeah, because you were sleeping through the lessons, man. The lessons were the game design. And granted, not all games do this well. Some games do it poorly. In fact, that's one of the things that me and like Metal Commander and Mauler and John and all those guys talk about when we go on shows is, hey, how did they design this? How did they do it? Is it good? Is it okay? Is it great? Because, there's a wide variety. Or is it terrible? Some games do things poorly. But I think Tears of the Kingdom is a really good example of like if you played the new Zelda at all. I don't know if you got it with your Switch, but
Oh no, I haven't. It was an expensive month. I'm going to go
oh
visit my
yeah,
mom.
and that's a pretty expensive game, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend making that an investment anytime soon. The sad thing is it's Nintendo, so it's going to fucking be expensive forever. But that game has a very good onboard period, like a time in which you're limited and you have to work within those limitations that you, for the vast majority of the game, you won't have to deal with. So if you jumped into like my save file and got really good with all the stuff that I use, you would go to this file and be like, oh my God, like I don't have the glider. I don't have the ability to move through the air at all. I don't have the ability to use telekinesis on stuff yet. Like there's all sorts of things that you just wouldn't be able to do. But the important part of that from a design standpoint is that's the part of the game that says, okay, here's a puzzle where you have to get to this thing that's at the top of a really cold mountain. And it's this one little really cold mountain on this sky island that you're on. So it's, it's a limited scope in which you are. So it's like, okay, it's not like this is something for the end game. That's a thing that I have to go get now because I need to find these things to finish the prologue. So you climb up the mountain and you get cold. What do you do when you get cold?
Start a fire.
Yep, sure. You can do that. What else would you want to do?
I don't know. Start a fire would probably be my first shot.
Yeah, but is there anything else that you could think of?
Find shelter, probably.
Yeah. What would be shelter that you carry around with you? I'm leading you a little bit. But I mean, yeah, but I mean more like all the time. I'm going.
Coat?
Yeah, I'm going for yeah, exactly. Like clothes. Put on a coat. And both of those.
If you're out naked in the cold, that's a very bad idea.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're not naked, but let's say what you're wearing is not appropriate for the weather, and you are feeling cold to the point that it is stopping you, like you're losing health. So what's really kind of neat about that game is it forces you to go into that situation, and you've essentially got three core options for recovering your ability to withstand the environment. Those options are you can cook something, and specific things can that if you cook like a hot pepper into it, granted those spicy peppers are found very frequently in this area, so it's like the game telling you, hey, maybe pick up a few of these peppers. And if you add a spicy pepper into something that you cook, you gain cold resistance for a little bit, and that kind of says that. So if you see all those ingredients around or thinking, okay, the game is showing me these things, what if I pick up a couple of them and cook them in some meal? Oh, look at that, cold resistance. Now I can go up that mountain. Or you can go into a town, or actually I don't know if you have a town yet, but you could find an item that is a coat or sturdier pants or or a hat even, like anything that can give you cold resistance. And if you're able to find any of that stuff, that's another way you can do it. Or the big one is, as you said, it was the first one that you guessed, fire. Anything in that game that is made of wood, including your weapons, can set on fire. So fuel isn't hard to come by. What else do you need for a fire?
I mean, you don't need much. I mean, it depends. If you know how to start a fire yourself, you should be fine. But
well, what would you need? Assuming you're in a fantasy land, you're in Legend of Zelda, so you know that you can't just go down to the corner store and. Well, no, you don't have any magic. You have to obey the laws.
No magic.
Of yep.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it was your first guess. So,
cool.
Well, how do you start this fire? Because it was your first guess, right? Like you said, start a fire. How do you start the fire? I gave you the hint that, like, oh, yeah, anything made out of wood will burn. So what are the things you need?
I mean, go find a log or a tree or a branch or a bush or brush.
Yeah.
Dry leaves are probably something I would.
Okay. Leaves aren't an item in the game, but you did get it basically on the first hit there. So if you have an edged weapon of any kind, it doesn't have to be an axe, it could be a sword. You can walk up to any tree and cut it down. So that, and then it'll cut down into a log, and then you can cut that log and you'll get a bunch of sticks, and you can use that for your fire. But lighting it, how do you light it? And again, for
do I have shoelaces?
I theoretically, but they are not a usable item in the game. Although I'm interested to hear where you were gonna go with that, but
well, I mean, shoelace and stick, you could start a pretty good fire.
Shoelace is stick?
Shoelace and a stick.
Like just on its own? How do you ignite the fire with the shoelace?
You use it for the friction.
Huh. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay, well, I mean, so that is one that you wouldn't be able to do in this game. But I think that an interesting thing that they do is they give you items like flint that'll be lying around. So when you find flint, and what's funny is actually I was running this exercise with my mom that doesn't play video games ever, and she actually said, "Oh, well, I guess you'd need flint." And I was like, "Boom, okay, flint is an item in the game." So you got to find some flint.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then what do you do with the flint? And then she's like, I don't know, hit it with something. I was like, something made of what? She's like, probably metal. I was like, yep. Do you have any swords in your inventory? And she's like, I have no idea. And you're like, you probably do. So just hit it with a sword and it'll create a spark. And if you put some wood near it, that will create a fire. If you then set something on fire that you can carry with you, you can have fire that you're carrying with you. So if you're holding a torch, that'll do. Or you can just every so often go 100 meters down the line towards your destination, create another fire, wait there for a bit, heal up, and then move on, you know. But what I really like about it though is it puts you in the situation where you are not able to progress in the game unless you think your way through this puzzle. You know, so it's like, okay, so you do have to think, how do I protect myself from the cold? Or you cannot get into the game. Like, you can't get through the prologue. But, like, that roadblock isn't like, oh, man, that sucks. I wish I could just do it without having to learn how to, or without having to make myself warm. Like, I wish I could skip that part. It's like, yeah, but then also you wouldn't be taught that your body temperature matters in this game, but you have options to deal with it. So if you just tap out on the like, oh shit, sometimes I'm cold, I guess I gotta just get the warm armor and that's it, and I'm screwed until then. It's like, well, no, because they put you in a situation where you can't really get warm armor yet. So you can't do the thing that in most video games would be the only thing that you can do. Because right now you just don't have that option. So that puts the player in a situation where they're forced to learn. And what I think is really kind of amazing, as much as I don't like giving Nintendo a lot of W's, the thing that Nintendo did with this very well was they created a game that I think will genuinely make children smarter. Like, and I'm not even kidding about that, because I think that Minecraft, you could argue, sort of did the same thing. But I think that the way the physics and game systems are tied together in that game, so much of them are rooted in just understand the rules of this world and think about the solutions to the puzzle and that will work. The thing that you think will work, if you can pull it off, it will work, because we aren't in the business of saying to the player, oh no, you didn't solve it the way we solved it, so that's not going to work. So here, like, I mean, the best example I gave was I had a shrine that I had to get to, which was at the top of a big circular canyon thing that was like, I had to go kind of climb up it and use bombs to open up these pipes that would raise the water level. But I didn't really want to deal with that, so I just kind of created myself, using the build system of the game, I created myself a really massive bridge and then turned it right side up so that it was going vertical, warped myself up to the top of it because that's one of the abilities that I knew I had, and then I just used my glider to just fly in and skip the entire section of the game. But it let me do it. And that, I think, is what's incredible, because it's like, okay, yeah, you should let the player solve. Like, if they can think around your puzzle, you should let them think around your puzzle. Yeah, but most games will stop you. They'll just be like, no, invisible ceiling, so you can't get over top of the thing. Okay, I guess I won't do it that way. I'll go around and destroy all the things which create the water level to rise, you know? So, but yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, I think that if you start playing games and looking at them a bit differently, I honestly think that you'll find you might end up being better at them and enjoying them more as a result. And I think that's kind of the reason I advocate. I don't ever say, hey, don't play on easy mode, don't be a bitch kind of deal. I'm like, no. I think when you start on easy mode, though, I think you're not giving the game enough of a chance. Because you might really like the normal mode or the hard mode even. Like, there's lots of games that I just jump right to hard mode on. And sometimes I think, oh, fuck, that was a mistake. I'm not nearly this good. So I bump it down to normal. That happens. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just, what I would advocate against is don't begin on easy. Make easy the panic button, not step one. Because people say, oh, well, I'll just get good at easy mode, then jump it up to normal. I'm like, I think I'm getting to the point that I don't think game difficulty works that way at all. Or the only situation in which that works is if things like knowledge of the game's systems are hard to develop at the hard mode, because the hard mode begins assuming you have intimate knowledge of those systems. Do you know what I mean by that? It's okay if you don't. I just don't want to go on a big long tangent.
No, I don't know about that.
Okay, if a hard difficulty begins assuming that there are things that you need to know about the game to have any chance at all at surviving. So it's like, no, we've assumed you've played it on normal, otherwise, because we're not telling you how to do any of this stuff. We're just throwing you in head first, and there's things that you're just going to need to know that are very high level that would be very difficult for a player to just figure out. So this hard mode is designed assuming you already know this game very, very well. And that's sort of what I would say the Resident Evil harder modes tend to be, although the, what's it called? The professional mode in Resident Evil 4 was actually quite good. I like that a lot, but Resident Evil 4 is kind of different. But I find survival horror games tend to be like that because they're very, very heavily structured around resource management. Like, how many bullets do you have left? Now, again, I'm not talking about anything past Resident Evil 4 for Resident Evil, but most survival horror games, that's kind of the deal. Like, it's, okay, we want you to know that it will take 6 handgun rounds to shoot that zombie and kill him. So if you enter hard mode, not understanding things like how valuable the healing item you just picked up was, and how careful you need to be with it, how powerful certain enemies are, and how careful you need to be while engaging with them. Like, you know, like there's plenty of things that jumping right into the hard mode will be difficult, much more difficult in certain types of games. Or things like 4X games, I can imagine. Like, I've not played a whole bunch of them, but holy shit, I was trying to play RimWorld because Rags was talking about how good it is, and I suck at that game. And that is just a matter of like, oh, it's incredibly complex, and it will take me a very long time to actually learn it. So I'm not saying that I can't. It's just that this is one that I'm not going to be able to just pluck away at on my Steam Deck. Like, I'm going to need to sit down and figure this out. And I just haven't got around to it yet. But I find, though, most games tend to be that if they've... Here's the rule I use. If it's 3 difficulties, easy, normal, hard, I might go normal. I might go hard, and then if it's too bad, I will switch it down to normal with no problem. If there's 5 difficulties, if there is a super easy story mode, a very easy mode, or sorry, a super easy story mode thing like an explorer mode or whatever, a easy mode, a normal mode, a hard mode, and a nightmare mode or something, I will immediately pick the hard mode every time. Every single time, even if I know nothing about the game. Because if there's an option above it that you can play without finishing the game first, and generally that's actually why a lot of hard difficulties are blocked behind a completion of the game, because that's the developer saying, we do not want new players to jump into this and thinking they're going to have a shot. Because we don't teach them things in this mode that they need to know to complete it, so you have to play the first mode first. And generally, if a game's designed well, the developers think that. So it's like, okay, so if you want to play... I think it's actually, if you want to play professional mode in Resident Evil 4, I think you need to do normal first. Or at least that's what I did. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's more or less made sense, right? So that, like, what I would recommend going forward is just default to normal mode and switch it if you need to. Because honestly, like, most normal modes in modern video games are not really that bad. Like, they tend to be pretty okay for the most part. They're like, I actually can't think of one. I'm trying to think of a game in which the normal mode caused me any significant difficulty in the last while. Granted, like I said, I'm okay at games, but also I'm not amazing. I'm just like slightly above average, I would say. Played Fallen Order on the 2nd highest difficulty, and I tried the highest, but it was a little too hard on me. And yeah, that's fine. Because you might find that just, okay, this difficulty, at least for something like Jedi Fallen Order, you could say this one, they've narrowed the parry window to the point that I feel like I just can't ever counterattack. And I liked counterattacking in that game, and I got a real feel for it on Jedi Master. But when I fired it up on Jedi Grandmaster, all of a sudden I suck, and now I hate this game. I'd be like, yeah, okay, so just play on Jedi Master, or even just Jedi Knight. Like, just that's fine. You can be like, hey, I found the line of challenge where this game becomes incredible for me, and I took one step past it and realized I hated it. That's where you found your line for the difficulty for that game, you know? Because it's like, okay, you figured it out. Because you played the harder one and saw that it was too hard, and then scaled it down and figured, okay, that's the one that could do it. Because I find people are very, not very likely usually to decide to make things harder on them. And I think the big problem with that is if you do like a novice mode or an easy mode of some kind, and it really amps up your damage, like if it makes you just hit things like a freight train and enemies barely scratch you when they hit you, it can be really tough to switch that while you're playing and just be like, oh, now, yeah, great, now my weapons suck and my armor sucks and the enemy's like way scarier. That's amazing, thank you. I just nerfed myself, that was great. And so that can feel really annoying, and people think, okay, I'm never going to do that, which is why I would always recommend start high, move low. And not high, like, don't default to nightmare mode. Like, pick, like, wherever, in fact, I do this with eye chart patients. Like, when I'm testing people's vision at work, pick the line that you can read comfortably, and then start on the line above that. And then that way, if you find that that one is, like, totally too easy, you can go, oh, I guess, wait, I'm going in the other direction, because it gets easier as you get higher. But, yeah. So for eye charts, you go easier if you need to. Or sorry, wait, no. Go harder. Yeah, harder. Video games, start harder, go easier. I believe that's the end of my point.